Great. All right, welcome everybody. This is a meeting of the Town of Wenham Planning Board. My name is Dan Pasquarello, I'm the Vice Chair. We have a quorum. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on HWCam, and it's also a hybrid meeting in the Zoom format for folks who couldn't attend in person. So we have a number of administrative items on our agenda tonight. The first is a request for a security bond released by Wenham Pines. I believe Attorney Samasco is here.
Hi, good evening. Miranda Samasco from Glovsky & Glovsky in Beverly. We represent Wenham Pines, LLC. And before you tonight, you have a request to release the surety bond that was originally posted in 2020 to secure the developer's obligations to complete the common infrastructure for the Wenham Pines project. And I think you probably have a number of pieces of correspondence, but the most recent items that are relevant are Hancock Associates closeout correspondence of December 5th, responding to the peer review comments, and then a subsequent letter from the peer reviewer dated December 23rd, responding to that request. And as I read it, they have no further open issues, except that they noted a drainage issue in the common areas that was not part of the work originally secured by the bond. So our position has been that the request before you does not take into account that drainage issue. The trustees, the owners of Wenham Pines, have assumed responsibility for the common areas. And so we would ask the board to conclude that the work that is secured by the surety bond has in fact been completed and can be released. And we have submitted this evening a letter that I received late this afternoon from one of the trustees, basically acknowledging that the trustees have taken over the common areas and otherwise acknowledging that the work that is pursuant to the original approvals for this project way back in 2017 has been completed. And I know there's at least one member of the trustees on the call who can.
And it looks like we have a letter from the trustees. Today's date, is that the letter you're referring to?
Yes.
We're there in support of your application?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody else want to speak on this issue? We have somebody on Zoom. If you do want to speak, please raise your hand or use the raise your hand function. While we're doing that, anybody here in the room here for Wenham Pines? No. I don't see anybody on Zoom.
I'm not sure if Mr. McGonigal wanted to speak.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Mr. McGonigal.
Okay.
He lives in...
Mr. McGonigal, would you like to speak on this issue?
He's on the board, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he can unmute himself.
I think you can unmute him.
I can't. I can ask to unmute. He just has to do it on his computer.
So, Mr.
Oh,
there you go.
I got it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
State your name and your address, please.
Joseph McGonigal at 6 Pine Hill Road in Wenham, at Wenham Pines.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. McGonigal.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty much in agreement here. The only issue left open, and I think that, the builders have done a really good job with negotiations with us as far as the landscaping and sprinkler system that they've supported us at, so we really appreciate that. And then we had the GM2 report, which cited some things that the Wenham Pines board didn't know about, and the builders handled most of that, and there was only one thing left open, and that was the drainage issue up at 22 and 24. So that's still an open issue, and we've got some confirmation and communication from the Tambones that they're willing to talk about it down the road, but I'm not sure what that means. You know, once the bond is released, I don't know what responsibility they had. And we did agree with the Tambones that we would not pursue anything else, but we didn't know about that issue up at 22 and 24. So it's still an issue that we need to resolve eventually, and hopefully we can get together with the builders and come to some agreement. We're willing to share in the expense. I think the expense was about $18,000, and it's something that needs to be done for the future, probably as early as this spring. And that's basically where the board stands.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGonigal.
There's one other issue, I'm sorry. We had an agreement with the builders that we would re-energize our sprinkler system and make any repairs necessary to make it a functional system. And they had agreed to pay us $10,000, and they paid us most of it. I think there's about $2,200 left, which I believe they've agreed to pay. So we're good on that. It's just the open issue of the drainage up at 22 and 24.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Margaret, do you have any outstanding issues with this? Anything?
No, we don't. The peer reviewers have gone out and found that everything that was supposed to be done has been done satisfactorily.
And this drainage issue is outside of the scope of
Outside
what
of the
we're
scope
dealing
of
with
the
today?
bond,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Anderson?
No questions for me.
Okay, what is the amount of, do we need to know the specific amount of the bond that you're?
Yeah, I think it's 72,000.
Yeah, it was originally, not sure what it is right now, Margaret. It's been drawn down against, but basically, the bond would be released and canceled
in
with
its
the surety.
entirety.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so if there's no further discussion, can I have a motion?
Okay, I'll try. I'd like to make a motion that we, maybe somebody can give me language that's official.
I would say
I mean,
a motion to release the bond being held, for the security bond being held for the Wenham Pines project be released in full.
In full? So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Woodland, aye.
Pascarello votes aye.
Anderson, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One housekeeping detail, Margaret, I
Yep.
was just reminded, I think the original request included a form of release.
Okay.
Do you, and I can
Do you have
furnish
that?
another one tomorrow. And I'm sorry, I actually printed everything but that out. But it would, I think it's,
I don't
would
think I have
require the
that.
signature on behalf of the board, and we can certainly attend to that post-hearing. I'll follow up.
Do you want to authorize one member to sign it? And because I can send that via email through the DocuSign program. The registry accepts those.
Oh, they are?
They are, yeah, from most
Wenham?
things that we've done.
Okay.
They've
All right,
been
we can give it a
accepting them.
whirl.
So you don't have to come in to sign it.
Right, does it have to be one of us, or can we authorize Ann? I'm fine signing it if you want to.
Yeah,
Okay,
you could
fine.
authorize one of you, because she's not here.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Meaning one person will sign
On behalf
for
of the board. Yeah. The release.
Okay. I'll move that the release of the performance bond for the Wenham Pines project that we've previously voted unanimously to release, that said release can be signed by one member of the planning board, specifically Vice Chair Pascarello, on behalf of the entire board.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Woodland.
Aye.
Anderson, aye.
All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thanks.
Rosie, go. Rosie,
Okay,
Fine. Go, go, go. Go, Rosie, go. Go, Rosie, go.
Might want to mute that.
Sounds like somebody's dog.
Okay. All right, the next item on our agenda is request for street acceptance of Spring Hill Farm Road and Angus Circle. I understand that the homeowners association has been formed and they have counsel, and counsel is here.
Yes.
So before you begin, we have heard this issue a number of times already. I'm not trying to cut you off or anything. We're familiar with the background. We'd appreciate an update on where things stand and
Okay.
whatever else you want to offer.
My name is Rob Ansel. I'm with the board tonight, a number of residents of Spring Hill. I have been involved for about a month now, and during that period of time, the association has engaged our firm, Perkins and Ansel. We are a 20-person firm in Westford that does a lot of land use work. I've done a number of road acceptances with Copeland and Page in the past. There was previously, and I know that you perhaps know this, an as-built plan of the road that was submitted by Hayes Engineering. I have spoken to Marshall Newman, who is the attorney for the developer. I have emailed exchanges with him saying that we, as the association, can go forward and get the roadway accepted. I think that any citizen could end up doing that, but we are assuming the responsibility of doing that. There are a few outstanding easements that need to be completed prior to the road being accepted. I don't think I mentioned this, the association has recorded a certificate of trustees, so there is a new board that has been formed. Mark McGee, who's with us tonight, has been responsible for transferring the money that was collected at each one of the closings to a separate bank account. They've engaged Hayes Engineering. We don't have a time frame from them yet relative to the completion of the easement work that needs to be done because of the snow, but we are actively moving forward with that. I spoke with your town council from KP Law, Sharon Everett, and we've exchanged emails. I followed up with an email. We spoke on Tuesday, and when we spoke, there are essentially two different ways that you can accept a road within town. One is through a taking, and the other is through a deeded interest. What the developer is supposed to do when they sell out a lot is the deed is supposed to say that you're reserving the fee interest in the roadways. The developer did that only for the Habitat lot and didn't do that for the other lots. That's not a problem. The town has said that they would like to probably do an eminent domain taking. When they do an eminent domain taking, you have to get a signature from the lot owner saying that they're releasing any interest as to value. And I'm sure that we are going to handle that. I don't know of any outstanding roadway issues or any catch basin maintenance issues or other things that are typically associated with a project like this. That has not been brought to my attention. We are addressing access easements which were created when the original plan was filed. So that's kind of where we are. I've spoken to town council. We have a new board that's been formed. I have had exceedingly frequent contact with the trustees. They really do want to get this done for the June town meeting. I don't.
The annual town meeting is in April. We expect a special town meeting in June.
Okay.
So there will be 2 town meetings.
We are going to be ready for April. I saw the June, I think it's 9th meeting, and I got confused by that from your website. Ideally, what I would like to do is queue this up for the April town meeting. I should also say that Andrew Goodman, who's here tonight, met with the select board. The select board agreed to have a placeholder on the warrant. I drafted a warrant article and sent that to Copman and Page today. I can't, she needs to get back to me as to whether or not I'm going to have the deed signed by everybody or whether or not there's going to be a taking. Either way, I need to get signatures from the different lot owners, which I'll make sure that that happens. So, and I don't think that from the town's perspective, I guess they would like to do a taking or a municipal law. People would prefer that you do a taking. There's been a kind of a big push on the Supreme Court level about what a taking means, but in what rights people have. But in this case, everybody would be saying that, look, you're taking something that really is not mine. I have a fee. I have an easement interest in the road. In exchange for releasing my easement interest in the road, I'm getting a publicly accepted roadway. So that's where we are at. I think I'm prepared to
Question.
ask
I
any questions you might
haven't
have.
looked at the deeds. Are these easement interests they have in the roadway, or are they, are we dealing with derelict fee? Do they own to the
So
midpoint?
it's just derelict fee. There's two things.
Yep.
There's an easement issue. Do you know what lot that is?
Lot 15.
Lot 15, there, the homeowner changed location of the easement. We need to do some work to make sure that DPW can end up accessing that.
Yep.
The owner of Lot 15 is fully willing to do that, has their own counsel. We're moving forward with that. We need to locate that easement on a plan which we've engaged his engineering to do. So that will be done. So to answer your question about the derelict fee statute, the easement rights would be a release, or the release deed, which I've done in other communities where the developer hadn't retained the fee interest, is they do a release deed. I've had that go back to the developer and then have the developer convey to the property to the town. We can do it that way. We can have it conveyed to the association, their trust. We can do that, or we can do a taking. So.
You can work that out with,
Yeah.
with town council. You're actually ahead of us on that because we haven't had a briefing from town council. My only other question was, did you say that the developer reserve?
That's an odd noise. There's no attic.
That's my fault.
That might be snow falling off the roof.
I don't think we have an attic.
But did you say the developer reserved
The fee
its
interest only in
for
the habitat lot.
So the developer still has an interest somewhere in the.
Which
so
the developer
small-
would release.
Yeah,
I have worked with Albert Ellis in the past on different projects. I have a cooperative relationship with him, as I do with Attorney Marshall Newman, who represented the developer in the project. So they're not here before you getting the roadway accepted, but I know that I can have them cooperate with me to get signatures on whatever I need.
Okay, and I assume that you are representing everybody who's here in the room. Is that a correct assumption?
Correct.
All right. Is there any? Do you represent anybody on Zoom as well?
Yeah, so Jens, who's on the Zoom, he is the owner of
Right, and he's-
Oh, great.
15 Spring
Yep.
Hill, right? But
Yep.
he's also a member of the HOA, so Rob represents the HOA.
Okay. So is there anybody on Zoom who's not represented by Mr. Anctil who wants to speak on this issue? You can just raise your hand on the Zoom function. I don't see anybody. Okay. So I understand, well, let me say this first. It sounds like things are moving in the right direction. That's good news. It sounds like you're still waiting on a few things.
Yeah, but in deference to town council, we will get that together. I spoke with her on Tuesday, today's Thursday, she didn't, I haven't heard back from her, but I know they will get back to me, they will give me an agenda, they will tell me what to do. The drafting of the documents is simple. I'm sure that I will coordinate, or Jens will coordinate with you guys to make sure that our easement is done, and I don't really see any issues. We're not here before you tonight asking you to take any action. You certainly can't, because you don't have any of the documents in front of you. It's an informational meeting. It's an update. We're looking to tell you that we exist, that we are serious about getting our work done, and we're here to address any issues that you may have. On a positive note, I haven't heard that there are any major, like the project before us, that we have a drainage issue on such and such a place, or that we haven't done cleaning of the our maintenance requirements. The association, the trust, is putting together a budget to make sure that we have funds to do the annual maintenance work that's required in the submission of the annual updates that the developer has done in the past.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we are still waiting for some information on our end from town council, I think,
Yes.
and also from DPW.
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
Do you,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I want to know if there's any issues with DPW.
So I was going to ask Margaret to explain or give us some
Well-
detail on this, because I understand there may be an issue with the
Yeah, we
O&M plan.
did have a meeting today, but we haven't confirmed anything yet with town council, that the operation and maintenance plan on the property is rather cumbersome, and I don't know if you've seen it, the catch basins and drainage structures need to be cleaned 4 times a year with a specific vacuum machine. And I'm not sure what our DPW knows about that and how the DPW can handle that kind of work going forward. You mentioned a minute ago that you were putting funds away to do the yearly maintenance?
Well, in the past, it's my understanding that the developer
Yeah.
has submitted the,
Yeah.
whatever plan that is. I would
Yeah, a
assume that
report.
responsibility then falls on to the unit, or the lot owners and the trust.
Yeah.
Anything that we can do to simplify that maintenance and simplify whatever our reporting requirements are, would certainly welcome that. And, we would love if the DPW did that work, and that we provided them with access. I wasn't involved with your approvals of this project, and I don't know what your
Right.
expectations
And
are.
this is a superseding order of conditions. This was a DEP project.
Can I just, as a point of clarification?
Hold on, Mr. Goop. You can come up to the podium and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Rob and I are friends. So,
Just identify yourself.
Yeah, Andrew
and
Goodman, 2 Angus Circle.
thank you.
Good to see everybody again. So, yeah, Rob and I have been fast friends. But just a point of clarification on the catch basins, it was 4 times a year maintenance while the construction was happening. After the construction, it's once a year. And so, as Rob said, one of the things we've been doing as an HOA is we're putting together a budget. We understand there'll be some expenses. We obviously have to pay Rob's fees. We got a little money for, Hayes Engineering and other things, and this annual catch basin. So we're aware of that responsibility on an annual basis when we're prepared to,
Yeah, so we're going to ask DPW to look into it, because the issue is you've got, I don't know if they're conservation, they probably started off as conservation, but you have environmental issues. There's a superseding order of conditions that requires some kind of special maintenance. Does that extend to the retention ponds as well, or detention ponds?
Yeah, as far as we understand it, it is 4 times a year after construction also. You don't read it that way?
I don't think I do.
So this is
Operation and
something
maintenance.
that
I think it's
I would
something we need to
suggest-
discuss.
look
A
into,
little further.
and then,
Right.
and
Yeah.
we'll ask DPW to look into it as well, because I understand the number can be large for the
Yeah, I think,
maintenance, right?
I think we need to look at that, because I really do think it's once a
Okay,
year.
it's once a year?
And
Okay.
there's obviously a huge difference between once a year and 4 times a
Absolutely,
year.
yeah.
So we definitely want to get on agreement on that. I think I'll be brief, obviously, because Rob covered everything. But, I really thank the 4 people sitting up here for your partnership. And like we said in the letter, we took your advice that you've given us. We went and we, engaged council and got Hayes underway, and we, talked with the select board, and they gave us a placeholder for this spring town meeting, that's our goal, and I don't want to lose sight of that. And, something like the catch basin issue, like we can work all that out, and we understand we have responsibilities. I think there's just a couple things to do in order to get the street acceptance and get your recommendation for the town meeting. And we're doing all that post haste. And, Jens, in his easement, he's working with Hayes Engineering too. So, my expectation is that, if we can, we're gonna need to push town council and Rob to just get the paperwork done and agree on, the final points, and then we can land this plane.
So let's talk about that. Town meeting is April 13th, is that right?
April 5th.
April 5th.
April 5th, even
Yeah.
worse. So what's the latest that we could hold our meeting to vote a recommendation on it?
Ideally, it would happen at the end of this month, because in March, they want to get the warrant printed. This has made it on the warrant as sort of a placeholder, but they would like your recommendation to be printed in the warrant. If
And so
that
when-
doesn't happen, it can happen at town meeting, but it would be preferable to have it done by the end of this month.
So,
Not unusual to have no opinion until, so it's not unusual in the warrant to have things without opinions.
Yeah,
from a planning
without
board. So-
recommendations.
Without
Ann can
recommendation.
stand up and verbally share
Correct.
what our
Absolutely, yeah.
recommendation is.
So that's not a big thing for me.
Okay.
Do it later.
So, what I'm trying to think, because 2 months is gonna go, less than 2 months is gonna go super fast, especially if it's not a true 2 months.
Yep.
In terms of, we want these issues resolved, everyone gets there. What are we thinking is kind of the date that this all needs to be sewed up if it's gonna make it to April 5th?
It would be good to have things agreed upon by the 27th, so that you're comfortable
Which is 2
making a
weeks.
recommendation, which is 2 weeks from tonight.
So
That's a big lift.
It is a big lift. And
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're moving in this direction and you want to move quickly and you want to get on the the warrant for the April meeting. But I think we as a board, I'll speak for myself, I don't know, you guys can speak for yourselves too, but I would rather see things done correctly than see things done in a rushed manner that are not correct. And that we're trying to make a deadline that we don't need to make, because you do have a June meeting that is going to happen. It is a certainty that we're having a June meeting. And you might also want to consider, between those 2 meetings, how many warrant articles are going to be up at the April meeting as opposed to the June meeting? What was your sense of how many?
This
Bottom
says
line-
37, I don't know what they
Yeah.
came actually ship out with.
One of mine didn't get on, so they're pulling things off the agenda because it's so long.
So we know that in June, we're most likely dealing with MBTA at the June meeting. So I don't know what other warrant articles are going to be on there, but just something to consider.
Yeah, no, duly noted. I will say, and just in response to that, a couple things. One is, we want to get this street accepted as soon as possible, because with this derelict fee statute issue out there, I mean, we as homeowners are owning a road that's not a place where we want to be. So if we can get that done April 5th versus June 9th, like, that's helpful to us, right? And for example, I mean, Rob was being a little humble, but, like, he's sent to the town council, like, drafts of a warrant article, drafts of deeds, like, tell us how the town which approach, approach A or approach B, just tell us and we'll draft the document. So I think if we can, it's something that if Rob and town council can just get together, like, they can make decisions on this stuff pretty quickly.
And I think I can make the 27th. If we don't, we don't. But My thoughts on the maintenance of the, sort of, you understand?
Yeah, sure.
If any issues that we have with the DPW, they're gonna tell us that we need to do this, and we have our own position back. I don't know that that needs to be resolved relative to the acceptance of the roadways. Typically, a municipality from your seat wants to make sure that everything is working properly, and we're told that it is. And if I was before you saying that the developer left a mess and that we need to do X, Y, and Z, then it's very unlikely or totally unreasonable for us to stand before you to say that we want to get this thing done in April because we have outstanding issues.
No,
So I think even if we have a requirement, and I haven't looked at this issue, of maintenance 4 times a year, okay, we have that. That doesn't change because the municipality accepts the roadway. I mean, that is not an issue.
So that's an issue we have to work out with because I think DPW is assuming that if we accept the roadway, that DPW is going to be responsible for maintenance, and that because the town has accepted the roadway. So I appreciate that you may be able to get this done by the 27th. What I'm saying is we may not be able to get this done by the 27th.
Okay, and I fully understand that. I guess I'm just standing before you. Tell me to start running, and I'll just start running, and you tell me where to go. And that's kind of where I'm here before the board tonight, is saying we want to get this done. There is some urgency on our part. I know that you have really big issues with the MBTA, and I don't, I would think that we have a greater chance of getting it approved with 37 articles than with people that are angry about zoning. So,
Well, that might be less.
That's my 2 cents on that. We would have more time to get that done with 3 articles as opposed to 37, but I don't want to do anything that we don't do it right. I fully understand your role.
Look, I assume you're going to do all of this right, because this is what you do.
This is what I do, and I've done it with Copeland and Page before, and you couldn't have a better town council as far as the number of road acceptances in Massachusetts. They've probably done 1 million of them. So you're in good hands with them driving the bus.
Yeah, it's just, we're going to want to have the benefit of our own town council.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to want to know what DPW thinks. Those things are going to take a little bit of time. We'll do our best, but when we get all of the information, we have to sit back as a board and figure out if we want to accept the street or not. That's
And I guess what I would want to know is you may not have formulated this yet. If you did have any objections, I would want to address them, and I'd say that's fine. We will get this done between now and June. If I don't have any objections and you're waiting for me or somebody like me to do the paperwork, I'm telling you.
Nope, that's not what it is. I'll just, as an example, today is the first day we have heard about the O&M issues. So we need some time to process this stuff. So it's hard for us as a board to take action when we're getting information on the day of or the day before meetings. So, and I'm not blaming you for that. I'm just saying, you're moving in the right direction, continue to move in that direction, and we'll do the best that we can.
Okay, what I would request of the board is that we have a placeholder on your next meeting and your follow-up meetings, and even if it's a 2-minute update, and it might come from me, it might come from Andrew, it might come from our engineer, or whatever issues they are, I would like to maintain a placeholder, and
Yeah, I think we can put that on the administrative agenda, right?
Sure.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
I mean, I would also, I would encourage, KP Law has a lot going on right now, but, this is these are existing Wenham residents who need to be, they pay the taxes, they need to be brought into the community. And, if, my thing has always been, your diligence should be met by KP Law's diligence. And so, they represent the town, you are part of the town. This is not like a development, a proposed development where, timing is, contingent on the developer. These are residents, and understand the point about 2 months means a lot when you have a risk of a liability. So, in terms of something happening in the street. So I do hope that KP Law will respond promptly.
I'm sure they will.
And frankly, if they don't, let us know.
Okay.
Hi, Anjal Goodman, 2 Angus Circle. I just wanted to bring up the point about the cleaning of the drains for 4 times versus the 1 time. I didn't read those documents. I don't know exactly what they say. But I want to bring up the fact that this was the original road plan that was made with the planning board and whatnot. So this was always on the table that this was going to be a public road if the developers would have come through and done what they were supposed to do. So I'm not sure why that has to be an issue now, because this was created with the intent of this road being a public road. So these drains were always going to be there, and they were always going to need to be cleaned out, whether it was the 1 or the 4. None of that ever changed. So I don't know why that has to be a deciding issue now when this was part of the original plan. It was always there. It was nothing that's changed.
I don't actually know that that's true, respectfully.
Okay,
And
that's
I
fine,
don't, I
because
wasn't around then, so
Okay.
I think that the DEP imposed restrictions later after the plan had been approved. So I don't know that the environmental aspects were before the board at the time that they acted. But I don't know that any of this is relevant, to be honest. I think the point is, we just have to find something that's gonna work for
Okay.
you all, for the town, and, you know, this is squarely before DPW and town staff to.
So were they, well, I just, because I don't know, like,
So
this was something that they were going to clean out anyway, or
No, so
they
the-
don't ever do that?
The other part of the answer to your question is, when this was approved, it was approved as a private way, and the town does not have an obligation to accept the private way as a public way, which is going to be in the subdivision approval. So what DPW is telling us is, this isn't a straightforward maintenance plan, and none of us have had the opportunity, I don't think, none of us have had the opportunity to review the O&M plan, but what we're hearing from DPW is there's a possibility that this could result in substantial expense to the town, which is something that it wasn't on our radar before, okay? So that plays into the equation of whether the town wants to take on the additional liability, the additional maintenance expense. So we just don't have the information yet.
Can I, it just popped in my head. I believe the select board is talking with town council in an executive session next week. Is that happening? About potential
I don't
remedies
know.
against the developer?
I thought that they were doing that. I don't know. I haven't.
They should be apprised of these types of things, I would think, too.
I agree
Yeah.
wholeheartedly with that. So, all right, thank you for the update. Again, I'm glad to hear that it's moving in the direction it's moving.
Okay. See you on the 27th?
Oh, yep, we'll be here on the 27th.
And if you're not getting traction from somebody, please let at least Margaret, if not one of the board members, know.
Okay, I don't want to throw Cope and Page under the bus yet. They're working with me. They're gonna be fine. I know they'll get back to me. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next matter on the agenda, discussion on upcoming zoning amendment public hearing on the 27th.
Yeah, I just put this on, Dan, in case you wanted to discuss these a little bit. I didn't print the floodplain overlay in there. There's nothing changed on that one.
I don't think we need to talk about
And the-
floodplain.
no,
There's
no,
no
you don't.
discretion
It's a
for us
state.
on-
Right.
The state's told us what that has
Yeah.
to be. The ADUs, there's been some more discussion recently.
I have a question
with-
for you on ADUs.
yeah.
So Mr. Walczyk sent us an email saying that he had done some research.
Who's that?
Peter Walczyk, he was here at our last meeting.
Yes, right.
And one of the questions that we had, you remember we had a back and forth with town council about
Yeah.
if we allowed ADUs by special permit, somebody might end up with more than one ADU on a lot, which I don't think is feasible. But
Right.
he seemed to be citing some section of the law that said that that question had already been determined and you can prohibit more than one ADU on a lot.
Yeah.
Is that, can we follow up on, were we
I
able to
can-
confirm that?
I was not able to confirm it. I wasn't
Okay.
quite sure what he was referring to, but
All right,
some of the issues that have been discussed are the nature of the building of these. When someone builds them, if it's an ADU, it has to follow certain building codes, meaning it has to have a firewall, it has to have 2 means of egress, it has to have a lot of different, more provisions put on it than our current bylaw that allows for ADU by special permit. The building inspector doesn't impose those because they're looking at it more as, it's an accessory to the home. They're not.
so you're saying the ADU by right is more strict with respect to the building code?
Code?
Yes, that's what we heard today from our building inspector.
I don't think we're gonna be able to change
There's nothing,
that.
oh, no, we
then.
can't change that. We can't change that.
No, but I mean,
And
even if we did special permit ADUs, I don't think we could have a different standard for a special permit ADU.
They have to be superseded by the state regulation.
I don't know about that. We had a little bit of a discussion about it today, but it's unclear.
Then I
So
wouldn't,
there's a
if
lot
the
of questions.
standard, if the safety standard is going up, then all the safety standards have to go up,
It's not-
or else you can't get a
yeah.
special permit.
It's not, the safety standards are not going up. It's that this is now a separate dwelling unit, whereas what we permit is an accessory but the ADU law looks at it as a whole separate dwelling unit. It has different, this is what the building inspector was telling me today. But anyway, I don't think it's a big issue for you guys, but what I think we need to figure out is whether you want to keep the current bylaw that allows for accessory apartments by special permit. What we're proposing now is to strike that altogether and just use the by right ADU. I mean, we can do that, see how it goes, but no one has the ability then to come in for anything larger than 900 square feet.
So my hesitation on that would actually be what Robin's concern was that if we're going to allow special permit ADUs, I think we have to define that, we have to include that in the definition of what
Right.
the ADU is.
Right.
Or you're gonna have 2 parallel tracks here where somebody can say, no, I don't have an ADU, I have an accessory apartment. So I can have an ADU and an accessory apartment.
Right.
So it almost feels like we have to replace that section. And then
Okay.
one of the things I think we should consider is, do we want to take steps like what Mr. Walczyk was proposing, where by special permit, we could allow somebody to go up to 900 feet, even if their house is 1,500 square feet or something like that? I know how you feel.
I'm a very liberal housing advocate,
Yep.
but we don't have a 2-family by right law, and I don't want us to be building that.
Okay, so we,
Well,
This is-
That's a
this is-
separate discussion.
yeah,
That's a
no,
separate discussion.
that's a
That we-
discussion we should plan to have next week.
Right, but having,
Yeah.
having
I mean, 2
two
weeks, in
families.
2 weeks.
Having 2 families is a separate discussion than ADUs, right?
I mean,
Because they can be of
it's-
equal sizes, they can all be, it's not an accessory
You
anymore.
mean like an ADU versus a duplex, is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
Yep.
Or a multifamily.
I mean-
Multifamily, not a duplex.
But you can have a multifamily that doesn't have units that are the same size, or,
Yeah, you could.
okay. But, all right, stuff to talk about for next, anything else we want to talk about, ADUs or floodplain? Mr. Anderson?
No, I don't think so. I think,
Okay. All right, moving
I
along.
also think, well, yeah, we'll keep talking about this, because I think this is something worth further consideration about the accessory apartments, or however, the special permit.
Can we define what the state uses the letter A for?
Letter A?
Accessory.
The letter A is accessory, not auxiliary. We use auxiliary in town.
No, we also call them
So
accessory
we are, everyone's calling
apartments.
them,
The state calls them
Dwelling.
accessory dwelling units,
Okay, thank
ADUs. So they have their own definition.
Okay, this will be fun. Next on the agenda, discussion on next steps for MBTA 3A zoning amendments.
I put that in here because we do need to talk about,
are the mics off? No, I'm like kidding.
we just want to talk about what we're going to do going forward, how we want to start to present it. Do you want to do some public outreach? And we'll have to have a zoning hearing for that before the June meeting.
What would public outreach look like? That, another forum? We've had 2 forums.
A
Up to you.
flyer?
I don't know. We have the flyers.
You know, one thing we can do, and I don't know if it's individual or if it's as a board, but we could be utilizing this new newspaper,
Yeah,
Yeah.
putting out
absolutely.
information on this.
They're hungry.
Yeah.
And this is, we should be talking about this. So if we do any more public outreach, I think it's got to be stuff like that. I mean, respectfully, we've done the forums, we have an open meeting.
Okay.
I don't see a need to have another forum.
And we
I
don't
s-
have a lot of discretion.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean,
What do you mean?
But people can lobby us only so far, but the law is the law, so there's not a lot of discretion we have in implementing anybody's ideas.
I mean, I think we can continue to list it on our agendas,
Okay.
that if, you know, we'll take public comment or something for.
oh yeah, I'm here to listen to anybody.
Yeah.
I just don't think we need another dedicated.
I don't either, I mean, I don't think we're gonna hear anything, well, before I say we're not gonna hear anything new,
Yeah,
there has been a new development.
right.
There's new litigation that's been filed regarding the emergency regulations. It's a case in Suffolk Superior Civil Session, brought by a Winthrop resident, about Winthrop's particular situation, but it's a challenge to the emergency regulations on a few grounds. It's a challenge to the fact that there haven't been re-promulgated regulations in accordance with 30A. We're still waiting for impact statements. I'm not sure about the public comment period, if it started or not.
I saw something online today that said public comment period ends February 20th, but I didn't get anything official that said it started.
Of course they're not gonna.
And I saw that in, I think, an attachment
Is it a
to
form
that.
on their
Yeah,
website?
a
Yeah.
form on the website.
So are they supposed to give you formal notification of?
I don't know. We did get it when they first started it, first promulgated those
Did we
regulations.
give public comment?
We did, absolutely.
We might want to reiterate that and push that in.
So you want to look at our public comment? Do you want to make any different public comment now that we know a little more about the,
This is so
oh,
rushed.
it's working?
It is, I mean,
Yeah.
meaning, do we have concerns about, it's tough because we don't know what the actual regulations are. I mean,
They're
we.
this identical.
Yeah, they're not changing.
No, I know that,
right?
but, I mean, are we gonna take the governor at her word that she just took the same regulations, reissued them as emergency, and that's what she's gonna adopt as, or that's what EOHLC is gonna adopt as regulations?
That's what it
The
sounds
final
like.
regulations? So if that's the case, you know, did we ever give public comment about the metrics they're using that gets us to 25% of our housing stock? That, or,
I have to go back and see. I don't have
You
our
asked for a
public comment.
ruling on that.
Huh?
You did ask for rulings on,
We asked about the half, the half circle. I noticed today, yeah, why, I'm not sure why we're at 25%.
so, can we bring up the other thing that I mentioned earlier, which is, Margaret submitted our action plan to get us, we had to
The
file by
action,
today, right? To-
Yeah.
To keep us in compliance.
Right.
So I noticed in our action plan that it states that none of the station area is located within town
I
boundaries.
noticed that too.
Right.
I thought it was,
I
but
thought it was. I thought that part of the
No.
boarding area for the station was in Wenham.
Wenham.
It's gotta be.
The parking lot is.
I'll show you.
The parking lot is, I know that, but I thought part of the station was too.
No, the part of the station must be.
So they're including us as an MBTA, that's the proper category, right? MBTA community?
A commuter rail
Rail.
community.
Commuter rail community.
Yeah, we're a commuter rail community.
It's because we have over 100 acres of developable
Yes.
station area within
Right.
a half mile of the station.
Of a station. So if you see the stations right here,
Nope.
none of the station is in Wenham.
So we're an adjacent community.
No, they're considering us a commuter rail community because we have over 111 acres within a half mile of this station.
But it should have just been a semicircle.
It is a semicircle, and within that semicircle, there are
No,
over
there should have been
100.
two semicircles. One should have been an MBTA community on the Hamilton side, and one should have been an adjacent community on the Wenham side. See the difference?
You would think so, but that's not how
No,
they're
they just
looking at
defined
us.
it. Well, my question is, was it EOHLC that defined us,
Yeah.
defined it this way, or was it in the statute? Because I know that there's a list of MBTA communities in the statute, and we are included in that. But then they went and made these different categories of
Yeah.
commuter rail, adjacent,
Right.
small, whatever, small
Yes.
adjacent. And I remember we had the back and forth about, do we want to try to sell 11 acres or
Yeah.
something like that? I was under the impression that part of the station was in Wenham. So that may be something we want to try to push back on, that why aren't we an adjacent community?
Because we have more than
No,
100
I
acres.
get it.
No,
but-
there is no way some of the boarding area is not in Wenham. D-Lights is in Wenham. And that is, D-Lights is essentially the beginning of the boarding area to the north.
Where is D-Lights?
That's where the gym is. The gym is right near where Margaret's speaking, where Hans is, correct?
Let me do this. Let me see if I can pull up the.
Well, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Is D-Lights the ice cream place? Okay.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, look at that. 1 inch. Is that the loading?
No, but that's the front of the station. The whole boarding area is in Wenham.
Right.
This is the boarding area?
Yeah.
Yes, it's all in
That's
Wenham.
the front of the train going north.
Yep.
What's the front?
Okay, so our
That's-
boarding area is then. All right.
Yeah, okay, fine. So,
Actually,
Because the way they
Hamilton's the
showed
one
it
that
on the,
say that it's not in their
that it's
town.
not in their town. Okay.
I'll excite them all again. Yep.
that's, yeah, okay, so it is in
Yep,
town
we are
boundaries.
in,
All right,
yep.
fine. So, all right, now I know. Now I
Yeah,
know why we're-
I'm sorry, because when I,
Into it, Dan, for so long. It's like,
I had been looking at,
I know, is
Yeah.
it not in it?
I had been looking at the location that the state gave us and
Do we
looking
need
at
to
that.
amend that now? Or no?
And-
Does it matter what we told the state?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Because I don't care.
We didn't, we were just saying that it's only a half circle, but they're saying because there's over 111 developable acres within that half circle. That's why we're considered commuter rail.
Well, it's also because we have a station in our town, so. Okay. So, with respect to the new lawsuit, I don't think it's the same situation that we had before, where we're waiting on an SJC decision. So, and I think we need to be prepared to field commentary and questions along this line, like, why aren't we waiting for this lawsuit to play out?
I mean, I need to read the lawsuit. I haven't read it yet, what's being alleged. I mean, I will say this, I looked at all the case law I could find on the emergency regulations, and I found 0 cases where courts had invalidated emergency regulations. Now, these are not housing mandates, essentially. These are other things like liquor licenses that have expired and, weird stuff like that. But there is extreme deference to the executive to do these 90-day emergency regulations. I'd like to read the arguments, but these are all procedural, technical. They're not knockout blows to the law. The law is what it is. I mean, the comment that I'd be more interested in, is there any political will in the legislature right now to amend this law? I heard there was like 13 or 17
13 or
bills.
14 bills going through the House and the Senate, from full repeal to modifications of the qualifications of the different towns.
So that would be more seductive to me as a
Yes.
concept. If there's actually a political will to modify the law, that would get my attention, I think, more than these court cases, from what I understand about them.
Well, the case isn't going to knock out the law, but it might knock out the regulations again.
Yeah,
which-
but-
Which is what we're dealing, I mean,
But these are all process issues, right? Like,
well, yes and no. I mean, we came up with our proposal based on coming into compliance with the metrics that they promulgated, which were not properly promulgated, and I don't think are properly promulgated now, because as far as I know, they're not moving through the 30A process, right?
I think they are.
Well, they have said that they will be, but I don't think they've issued impact statements. I'm not sure about the public comment period, but
I think we saw an impact statement for small businesses.
Well, that's
I
what they
saw
have to
something.
do.
They filed a
They did.
form.
All that, yeah.
I think they filed a form that said it won't have any impact on small businesses. They just checked off no on all those boxes.
okay.
I saw that.
My only question for you, Dave, about the emergency regulations is, how many of those cases came up in a situation where the SJC nullified
Oh.
the regular or guidelines that were there before, and told the agency to do something, and they just did the same thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I mean, the thing to me, and what I'd be curious about is, this is a stretch for emergency regulations. This isn't an emergency situation, and I imagine that the lawyers are attacking it on that front. I don't know. Let's look at the lawsuits. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it on the 27th.
How do we find, I tried to find what bills had been filed, and I had a hard time. I found one or two, but I tried to navigate the Mass
If I
website,
find
but-
stuff, I'll send it to Margaret.
If you go
and-
to the Mass General Law website, I believe you can search for
I'll
proposed
try it again.
bills. Yeah.
I'll try it again. Because that's really where people who are upset about this should be. They should be at Beacon Hill every day.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure, your take on this is we want to continue in the way that we had before, so can proceed the way we did with the same plan, the same location, and the same zoning, and just take that now and move forward with it. Is that
I
okay?
think so. Well, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I would just caution with one thing. As I was getting my, reading the Cricket today, there was a fulsome discussion about comments from the executive EOHLC to Essex. These comment letters are worthy of our attention. In all of your spare time, Margaret,
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that we start paying attention to these because,
Is Essex ahead of us in the process, or?
yeah, well, they appealed, they brought down their requirements, their obligations significantly because they basically said that the causeway is going to flood, is my understanding, and they're adjacent anyway. They're like,
Yeah.
they're like the lowest level, and they've excluded a ton of land. But the EOHLC gave them some, I understand, some pretty pointed comments on their compliance request, or their compliance submission. So I'd be curious to know how that's shaping up. That's probably a conversation with town council, but that's, if they're tracking that, if they're watching that, and how, but I'm curious to see if the comments that are being issued by the state executive agency could apply to us.
So there was a letter HLC sent to Essex?
Yeah, I think they
Where
are
would I
sending
find
out,
that?
they're sending out comments on applications and,
Yeah. They're doing preliminary.
Is that what it is, the preliminary?
I
That's
don't know
what- that was
whether
my question.
Essex has taken a vote and sent it in their actual compliance model.
actually, they haven't because they have a longer period to comply because
Yeah.
of their status.
So they must have done the voluntary.
Yeah, the preliminary
review.
Yeah.
compliance
Preliminary,
review,
okay.
yeah, which we're not doing.
I would have, if we're done with
Yeah.
that yet? I'd like to have a little discussion about how we're going to let people know what's in the bill, what's in this warrant. So I've talked about having.
MBTA, you mean?
Yes, we don't need to have meetings, right? We kind of agreed that. And then we're going to talk to the town newspaper and get some interest there. But I do believe we need to have one or two mailings to people in town to just, these are the facts, they're undisputable, this is what is going to be in this warrant article. You can look at it
Yeah.
in the warrant, you can read the whole document if you want to, or these are the bullet points.
Okay.
And I don't know what else to do, but I feel like I hear people saying, well, you're not telling us what's in it, you're not telling us what's in it, what's in it, what's in it. I'm like, well, we were going back and forth as to whether it was going to be anything at all. So now we know it's pretty much real. We're setting a date for a town meeting.
Isn't it still on the website? what our,
Well, the website changed.
It looks
what was
great.
going to be?
Did you see it?
Yeah, the website
The
looks great.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's still there someplace.
Okay.
It's not as obvious as it was.
So we
But
need to
We can
hold,
make that obvious. Yep.
do we need to hold a public hearing and send it to the select board, and then they send it back to us, just like we're doing now, right? And
For the-
then we vote
so-
on whether to recommend it.
Yeah, so first we need to, yeah, you're right, we need to send the zoning amendment to the select board. They need to send it back to you, then you have your public hearing.
Okay.
So,
Are we ready to send it to them? Because we have a public hearing on the
Well-
we don't have to do this.
June's going to come up on us
I know,
pretty quickly.
it's gonna come up so fast.
So,
So, just, yeah, we want to have our public hearing probably we want to have it after town meeting, after April's town meeting, because I think that'll confuse people. if we have it
Yeah,
before.
absolutely, yeah.
So if we'll have to have it, like, maybe April, have it your April,
you're,
we can't do April 10th
You-
because it's election.
we need to know what the warrant timeline is for special town meeting.
Yeah, I know, and I
That's
don't
what we
have
need
it
to know.
specifically, but I'm pretty sure
And they'll need
if
to
we
make
have it
amends that
mid-April, we'll
that
get in
this
for June.
public meeting doesn't happen until after the town meeting.
Right.
So however they're going to do the
We
warrant.
might not be able to do that.
Well,
I think we
there are
can,
ways to do
Dan.
that if we get the select board to understand the
yeah.
concerns.
You might not, because April 10th is the election, so you can't even meet that day,
Okay.
the town election. So you may want to meet like on the April 9th or, the 16th or something.
By the way, I feel like we have organically moved on to the next bullet point, which is preparation for special town meeting. So
Yes, we've organically moved into that, so.
Well done,
we're
Dan.
moving down the agenda.
Great.
And I forgot to say this at the opening, but we opened the meeting at 7:01 PM.
We did.
Yeah. Okay, anything else we want to say about special town meeting? I think we need to know the warrant timeline.
All right, I'll get you the warrant timeline. And we can put together similar packages to what we did last year when we were trying to get this all ready for the fall town meeting. We were thinking of doing it then, so we can have same
Which,
packages.
we didn't actually send it to the select board, right? We got to the meeting where we were
Right,
going
we
to
were
send it,
going
and
to,
then
yep, and then
they
we
said we're waiting for the
They wanted to wait.
litigation.
So we didn't move forward
Right,
with
okay.
it.
I just wasn't
So-
sure if it came back to us.
You know what, we might, let me check on the timeline, and we may, at the 27th meeting this month, want to just say, we're sending this to the select board for the June town meeting.
Get it
And
off the
then
list.
let them send it back to us and tell us when to have the public hearing.
Right.
I think that makes sense no matter what happens.
Let's
Because
get
we have,
ahead of
we
it.
have flexibility on when we can schedule the public hearing, right?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it have to be so many weeks or days before the actual town meeting? The warrant?
It does in order for it to get on the warrant. It's the whole public, printing the
There
warrant.
has to be a
piece.
public hearing on 3A, then it has to go to the warrant hearing, then it has to go to the town meeting,
Yes.
correct?
So you'll have.
When we send it to the selects, it's not a public hearing.
So first, you're going to meet,
do a public.
when you meet at the end of this month, you'll say, let's send this to the select board. The select board will then say, we're going to refer it back to the planning board for you to have your public hearing. You don't have to do the first part in a public hearing.
Right.
It can be a public
Right,
meeting.
Right, right.
So then,
I'm not worried about that.
the select board get it, then they give it back to you, and then you hold your public hearing.
Okay.
And in order for us to advertise, like in this little newspaper, which is really great, it's a much cheaper, we need to know at least 3 weeks in advance before we could do it, 2.5 weeks. We need a full 3 weeks because they only publish on Fridays. So in order for it to have the 2 week before, I need more leeway to publish in that paper, which I really think we should because it really reaches the residents of Wenham.
Yeah,
More so
everybody
than
reads.
the Salem News, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I
And,
believe that.
yeah, the cost differences are amazing. This one was $224 for the
Great.
Hamilton Wenham News, and the Salem News for the same thing for 2 weeks was $1,400.
Oh,
So,
well, reaching a lot more people that you don't need to reach.
yes, yeah,
We have, moving on,
okay,
3 sets of meeting minutes.
yep.
I have gone through and provided red line edits to each of them. So if you, Rick and Dave, want to look at, why don't we start with December 12th? And Margaret, have we determined, we can circulate these pre-meeting, right? This is
Yeah.
not deliberative,
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
fine.
administrative? Okay.
Oh, I will have something for later.
I'm
What do you
sorry.
mean for other matters?
Other matters, yep.
I'll move to,
Well, hold on, let's
I'm reading, sorry.
just, I suggest we do one motion to approve all three of them. But
wow.
But let's just, do you have any other edits to December
Are you
12th?
comfortable with that? Yeah?
With one motion?
Yep.
Yes, I will be.
Okay.
So any other edits to December 12th?
None from me.
No.
Okay, January 9th. All right, Mr. Woodland, any other changes for January 9?
I'm just reading through that last paragraph on page 1 of 3, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the important thing. Okay, I'm good there. Next. January 30?
Yep, so you had no changes to January?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to read it through to make sure.
None.
Okay, January 30.
Now, I do have a question. Has the planning board seen a copy of Peter Clay's resignation?
We haven't.
Can we ask for that
we
to be
didn't
put
receive
into
one.
our official minutes? Don't we have to record that somehow?
I'm not sure the planning board does as much as the select board, but let me.
Let's make
look
sure that
into it, Rick.
exists, okay? Because I've spoken to a select board member or two, and they don't seem to know what happened either.
Yep,
Are you trying to get him back on the board?
No, I just want to make sure that we close the door properly.
yeah. Okay.
Departures are important to memorialize. Okay, it doesn't look like you had many changes either, Dan, right? Just a lot of nits.
Nits.
I'm just looking for contextual,
Yep.
concepts. Okay.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the planning board minutes of December 12th, 2024, January 9th, 2025, and January 30th, 2025 as amended.
Second.
all those in favor?
Woodland, aye.
House Carol, aye.
Anderson, aye.
All right.
Wonderful.
Are there any other matters as may not have reasonably been anticipated by the chair?
You heard that the select board, I think, will be appointing Scott Schoenberger to the planning board at their meeting. It's on their agenda for next Tuesday.
To fill out the rest of Peter Clay's term?
Yes, to fill out the rest of Peter's term, just until April 10th, and then he'll have to run for the
The
office.
balance
When are the papers due back?
of the 20th.
Of February? Oh, okay.
Yes, we heard. He was former FinCom.
Yeah.
Was he? I think so.
He lives over at Five Corners, whatever they call that spot, over at Dodges Row and Larch.
In Walnut.
Grapevine.
Walnut and Grapevine, yeah, all
Right
that
on the
stuff
corner
right
there.
there. I have a couple things. One, I did drive by 47 Maple, and trees are down.
Yeah.
Construction has started. The dirt they turned over looks like beautiful farmland in front, nice and brown. So hopefully they'll grow some new trees there really well. And CPC season is pretty much over, so we've made about 5 grants. They'll be on the warrant. We did have to deny 2, but they were on the same kind of reasonings. And we're just cleaning up our act. We need to get a little bit more serious about historic records, which we're going to be doing, I think, over the next year. And I want to say that Tom Dolly has been a great help to organizing things and getting things straight up and out of the administration's hair. And what was the last thing? I do not know, but it went well, and now we're just waiting to get back our warrant articles to be proofed from the law firm.
Okay. Are you the chair of the CPC?
Yes.
You are, okay. I knew you were the liaison.
So one other thing that I was thinking about, so, sorry, but just a
Can this
thought.
work?
Well, for the emergency regulations on MBTA, just to go back there for a moment,
Mhm.
those came out, what, like January 13th, I want to say?
Yeah, 13 or
14, something like that.
Yeah.
So they have a 90-day life.
Yep.
And that puts us February, March, April.
1/3 through.
So if they don't, they're gone before our special town meeting, and we will either be in new regulation land or not. And I think we're prudent to move forward with the possibility that the EOHLC will properly promulgate the regulations, and if they don't, we will know by
Yes,
April.
We need to know
Okay.
the warrant timeline.
But it'll be 2 months before the special town meeting. Would it?
No, I know, but we're trying to make a February 27 deadline for April right now, right? So,
So it would
No,
be
I get it, but like,
March, the end of.
even if we prepared the warrant, but it all fell
Yeah,
apart in
you
terms
can
of the
open the warrant,
regulations, we could nix it if it was, looked like there was gonna be legal impediments.
well, I think we know what they're intending, which is to keep the same regulations almost identically. The question is whether they're going to be allowed to do that. Okay, since we're talking about MBTA again, one thing we should possibly consider is some kind of sunset provision for the 3A amendment that, in the event that the regulations are struck or deemed ineffective, this amendment is null and void. I don't know.
We asked Robin about that at a meeting. I asked her, and she did not like the sound of that for
No,
whatever
I think
reason.
the Attorney General's office would probably strike it down, but,
Yeah.
or would try to strike it down, but we're in limbo on, if we're not required to meet these compliance metrics, would we propose this?
No,
Okay, so that's the issue.
yeah.
One other thing, last week at the select board meeting, they asked me to look into doing an economic study, David, and I did talk to Dan Hodges, who did the one for the master plan. He gave us an estimate of approximately $30,000 to $50,000 to do some very in-depth study of all potential development that could happen as a result of MBTA and what impacts that would have. He did suggest that we have the information already in the master plan.
Yeah.
It has different scenarios of what types of development and what the ramifications would be to schools, to, economic.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the crowd was pining for at that select board meeting, was, quote, back of the envelope math, rough
Yeah.
estimates of what this price is out to be. And I think we have those estimates. And frankly, what Dan gave us is a set of variables and assumptions. And anyone can play with those assumptions and make their own, and the variables and make their own conclusions.
Can it be made foolproof and given out to citizens?
It's already out there. I mean, they may not want to dig into it, but I think it's on the website,
Yeah.
right?
It is.
This kind of needs to be sent out to these people because it'll help them understand that we've done some work, but also
Yeah.
make them part of the solution, right?
Yeah.
And not just standing there on the sidelines being concerned.
Can't we, on our page, just put
link to that
link to
space?
that
Sure,
study.
we can do it again. What we can do is update the MBTA page, because we've got a separate page now for it, which we had before, but we'll update it, put some of the new information. If you guys think of something that you really want to see on there, we can put that economic study out there. We've put potential development, what might come, what might be built there, what
But I thought the
here and there.
economic analysis was already on the master plan page.
It is.
So
You need to point
Just
But
put
but
a
it's
link
also
to
on the
this.
MBTA page.
Oh, it is?
It
Okay.
is, yeah. We
Great.
put that on, and we put the study that Milton had done
So let's
on
have
there.
a bullet point or something that says financial analysis.
Okay, we'll do that.
And report that to the select board so that they can be in the loop so that they
Okay.
know they've done that.
Yeah.
And if citizens come to them, they'll know where to go. Timing?
All right, it's 8:16. I move that we
Okay.
adjourn until February 27th at 7 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Woodland, yes?
Anderson, aye.
Pascarello, aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, HW
Thank you for
Cam.
getting us out of
Thank-
here a reasonable hour tonight.
Thank you.